Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Jai Gurudev. So we'll do verse number 56, 57 one more time. We're doing the Prajna Lakshanas. So Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmanye Vatmana Tushtaha Vita Prajnastadochyate. And then Dukkeshvanudvignamanaha Sukheshu Vigatasprihaha Vita Raga Bhaya Krodaha Stitadhir Muniruchyate. So we saw how the Sthita Prajna is one who is free from binding desires, free from doership, is happy with himself by himself. And what are his other characteristics? When faced with situations that cause sorrow, and those three causes for sorrow, Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik, and Adi Daivik. So he is unaffected by them. Dukkeshvanudvignamana. He is not flustered by these three causes of sorrow. Neither is he longing for or he gets too elated with sukha. Sukheshu vigatas prihaha, and he is free from raga, bhaya, and krodha. You saw the link how beautifully from avidya comes kama, and from kama comes, but the moment he starts thinking he is limited, he is inadequate, comes kama, the desire. From kama comes raga, dvesha, and from here, if it is unfulfilled, it causes the very fact that there is kama means that there is the other, and from the other comes fear. And when your kama does not get fulfilled, obstructed, it leads to anger. So the sthita prajna is free from raga, bhaya, and krodha. And then sthitadhir muni ruchyate. So his the knowledge of the muni stays sthita. That is why it does not swing and sway. The Muni does not think duality. So basically, there is only one Vastu, and that is the Advaita Lakshana. So further Krishna says, Yas sarvatra nabhisneha tat tat prapya shubha shubham nabhinandati na dveshti tasya prajna pratishtita. For the one who is unattached in all situations, who does neither rejoices on gaining the pleasant and nor hates the unpleasant. His knowledge is well established. The Muni discussed in the last verse is the person referred to here. A Muni is a Jnani, one who has the capacity for vichara and therefore knowledge. Such a person is said to be unattached to anything. Sarvatra anabhisneha. Sneha means affection or love. The literal meaning of this word in Sanskrit is anything viscous, like oil or glue. If you touch it, it sticks to you. Thus, anything sticky is called sneha. So, the literal meaning is like sticky, something sticky, but sneha means affection or love. Affection is considered to be sneha because the person for whom you have affection sticks to you. Even if the person is away from you, he or she is always with you in your thoughts because there is sharing involved. The other person's joys and sorrows become your joys and sorrows. You are deeply affected by the person, and therefore there is sneha, affection between the two of you. Affection need not be a problem. However, attachment, abhisneha, is definitely a nuisance. When a mother has affection for her child, there is no problem because the child needs the affection in order to grow well, to be fondled, talked to, listened to, and cared for, all of which is sneha, is very important for the child's growth. But what usually happens is that affection becomes attachment. And attachment means there is a strangulation of some kind. Instead of being an object of your affection, the person becomes an object to be possessed and controlled. The sentence needs to be underlined. So, instead of being an object of your affection, the person becomes an object to be possessed and controlled. That is where the problem starts. The abhisneha. Attachment is the problem. The need to control is a common problem everywhere. It is also a very old problem, which is why Krishna addressed it in this verse. Attachment is not there for a wise person. His or her heart is never caught anywhere. It is always free and in its own place. In fact, most of us have empty hearts because that which is our heart has been distributed in little bits to various places. So the wise person's heart is never caught anywhere. It is in its place. Whereas we have empty hearts because our heart is distributed in little bits in various places. A little bit in the furniture, another bit in the carpet, and still other bits in your bank balance, and a variety of other things. All that is left is a ticking heart. Everything else has been liberally distributed around and about. In this way, we lose our hearts in quite a few places and even say, so, I lost my heart. So, sneha is fine. But when it becomes abhisneha, that is attachment, there are two aspects. One is you want to possess, and the second is you want to control how it should be, how the person should be. So that becomes a problem. Control again is where your ragadveshas come up. I like this, This is how I want this person or this situation to be. Your mind is always where your heart is. And where will your mind be? Where the heart is, because that is where you are. Wherever the emotional attachment is, the mind will run right to it. Thus, the heart being in 100 different places, the mind attempting to keep pace with it necessarily goes to the same 100 places, and in fact finds it quite difficult to cope with all the travel. Person who has a wound involving pain and a little swelling will look at the wound every few minutes and stroke it ever so gently. Because there is pain and a lot of healing activity going on, the wound receives all the person's love and attention. The mind goes there because the heart is there. So, why is there a distinction between the heart and the mind over here? Because it's to do with affection, it's to do with love. And love is an aspect from the heart, it's an emotion that. So, because there is pain and a lot of healing activity, the person receives all of the person's love and attention. The mind goes there because the heart is there. The whole system naturally wants to fight it out and will certainly not allow the mind to dwell upon the meaning of Satchidananda at this time. Thus, our attachment is towards many things and many places, including heaven, none of which attracts the wise. This we've seen in when there is Vyadhi. Vyadhi is one of the um, Badhaka, one of the obstacles, according to Patanjali Yoga, that will keep you away from uniting with yourself. So when there's a disease, for instance, your little finger is paining or there's some swelling, the whole mind goes in there. So if the heart is split and distributed in several other places, like it was described by Swamiji, in our bank balance, in our house, in our possessions, so-called possessions, clothes, furniture, you name it. Whereas a wise person is anabhisneha. He is without that attachment. So his heart is whole and complete and it's in its place. Reveling in the Satchidananda. Atmani eva atmana tushta. Any description of heaven that you can think of, no matter how seemingly perfect, will not interest a wise person. He or she is one who is not caught up anywhere, whose heart is with him or her and never gets lost. Such a person may have love, friendship, affection, and care, but nothing more. This is why the prefix abhi is added to the word sneha, that the wise person may have affection but no attachment, is evidenced throughout the Upanishads and the Gita. So he has sneha but no abhisneha. Because sneha is one of the characteristics of of love, and that is what he personifies. Ananda flows out in the form of, is expressed in the form of love, which is expressed in all the human values of friendliness, compassion, love. So Krishna definitely had affection for Arjuna when he said, "Oh, my friend, I am teaching you because you are my devotee and I am your friend." He talked to him very fondly. We find many expressions in the Upanishads meaning Soumya, oh, pleasing one, etc., referring affectionately to a student. The point is that while there is affection, there is no attachment. Attachment helps no one, definitely not the mumukshu. The verse also tells us that the wise person does not dance for joy over desirable situations or hate undesirable situations. Shubha shubham tat tat prapya na abhinandati na dveshti. The word shubha means that which is good, auspicious, pleasant, and desirable, and ashubha means that which is unpleasant, like death, disease, and so on. To hate an undesirable situation is nothing but refusal to accept a fact. Need to underline this again. So, to hate an undesirable situation is nothing but refusal to accept a fact. A wise person does not hate a given situation, meaning that he or she accepts it as it is and therefore does not subject himself or herself to sorrow. So, in acceptance, there is, you're dropping out that dvesha. So, in the face of both the pleasant and unpleasant, the auspicious and inauspicious, the wise person is the same, samaha. For a yogi, it is a matter of attitude, born of a certain understanding, whereas for a jnani, it is a natural, spontaneous expression. This is the only difference. So, for a yogi, which is a karma yogi, it is a matter of an attitude, born of a certain understanding. So, karma yogi is still pursuing. He's a mumukshu. There's a change in his attitude. Whereas for a jnani, for a accomplished person, enlightened person, it is a natural, spontaneous expression. In his commentary on this verse, Shankara confirms that the one who remains the same in the face of both pleasant and unpleasant situations is well established in knowledge. This is because the person is free from the swings of joy and sorrow, elation and depression. There are no stock market highs and lows because the person's knowledge is born of Atma Anatma Viveka, discrimination between the real and the unreal. Again, this is boiling down to self knowledge. Self knowledge and that Viveka, Atma Anatma Viveka. We'll pause here for a while. Let's reflect on this verse, do some manana before going on to the next verse. Now, please share your understanding. So, where all do we get attached? Uh, I think there are 5 different ashanas. Ashanas are attachments. One is putreshana, that is towards progeny, then vitteshana to wealth, then jiveshana to very life. We hold on to dear life. And putreshana, jiveshana, vitteshana, and um, I think there are 2 more. One is, I think, to name and fame, for your self image. We're so attached to that. So basically, total acceptance of situations, people, and of oneself. The self has to be acceptable. The reason why we go out and want to fulfill this and that is because the fundamental problem is that we feel insecure and the self is not acceptable to us. We feel incomplete, and therefore, as as misers, that is, we do not use our viveka of atma anatma viveka, and in order to feel complete, we move outwardly to the world in order to fulfill and feel complete. So momentarily we feel complete whenever what we like happens and what we dislike we avoid, not understanding that that is ever changing. And then that gets us attached to people, things, situations, relationships. Whereas withdrawing oneself from all of that and accepting situations, whether they're desirable or undesirable, not getting swayed by them, having affection but not attachment, being friendly but not being possessive, not being a control freak. Most of the perfectionists are control freaks because they want things done the way they want. So, accepting imperfection around and not wanting to control everything. Again, it again boils down to having non-binding desires. So again, the jnani's lakshanas are tools for the sadhak. So the first one was prajahati yada kaman That is, all the desires as though vanish because he is happy with himself. So no binding desires, no doership for him because he is complete and full. There's nothing for him to do. The second was unflustered in the face of when faced with pairs of opposites. And then the third one is anabhisneha, not being attached, not being and having his heart in as a whole in one place and not scattered and distributed out. So the mind is forever in that Satchidananda. For a yogi, it is born of, it's a matter of an attitude, born of an understanding. Whereas for a jnani, for an accomplished person, it is a natural, spontaneous expression. So moving further, Krishna described the same person further in the next verse. Yada samharate chayam kurmonganiv sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. Yada, when, cha, and, ayam, this person, kurmaha, turtle, angani, limbs, iva, like, indriyarthebhyah, from sense objects, indriyani, sense organs, sarvashah, completely, samharate, is able to withdraw, tasya, his, prajna, knowledge, pratishtita, is steady. Yada cha ayam kurmaha angani iva indriyarthebhyah indriyani sarvashah samharate tasya prajna pratishtita. Another beautiful verse. And when, like the turtle that withdraws its limbs, this person is able to completely withdraw the sense organs from their sense objects, his knowledge is steady. This verse was also in response to Arjuna's question about how Asthita Prajna interacts with the world. The word cha connecting it to the previous verse. The wise person's capacity to manage his or her mind and senses is what is now being discussed. A person may have jnana, but for that knowledge to be steady, he or she must be able to withdraw the sense organs from the sense pursuits at will. Although the senses themselves are not harmful, they are referred to as the villains by the Shastra and by ourselves. For example, we make such statements as I'm okay, but my sense organs take me for a ride. My eyes alone take me to New York's 42nd Street. My ears also take me places. My sense organs are turbulent. They are the ones doing all the mischief. I am in their hands, the victim of my sense organs. The sense organs are not to blame. In fact, the sense organs are not to blame at all. They are purely reporters. They do not ask you to do anything. Otherwise, you could not go into a shopping mall and come out without everything sticking to you. The senses themselves are not turbulent. They only report, and they keep reporting because it is their nature to report. Reporting is their job. The eyes tell you what is there. If it is a sentence, they help you read it. If it is a color, the eyes help you see it. It is not the sense of smell that tells you that this is sweet and so on. It only reports the smell. You are the one who decides whether it is sweet or not. Otherwise, who would like blue cheese? If the senses had sweetness, they would never develop a liking for a strong smelling cheese called the blue cheese. It is you who develop a liking for it, not the senses. They only report the smell. And when they report the smell of blue cheese to some people, those people run. The senses are not responsible for your going for the blue cheese. Your mind is the cause. Thus, the senses themselves are not to blame. Please remove the blame from the senses. They are given to you simply for reporting, they do no harm. The reason they are presented as villains is because they report there are problems. If they did not report, there would be no desire, no pursuit, and therefore no problem. But because they report, there are fancies, and you go along with the fancies. These fancies are many, and the reports of the senses are constant. They keep coming all the time. Reports of new objects, new scenes, and changing scenes. Because the senses are a means of knowledge, a pramana, it is their job to report what is happening. For example, if there is a sound, your sense of hearing immediately tells you that it is a sound. Because of the various sense data, you get yourself started and before long find yourself caught up in fancies. Because the reports of the senses lead to fancies, the senses seem to be a problem, but they are not. Even the fancies that happen in your mind are not in themselves a problem, as we will see later. But because you go along with the fancies, the senses are considered to be turbulent and are thought of as the villains. The senses are not villains. If they report something and there is a fancy for it, you go along with the fancy until you find that you have no time for anything else. And because there are so many fancies, you are totally lost. The verse under discussion here refers to the person who is able to withdraw the senses at his or her will in order to gain steadiness in the knowledge of the self. When a person is able to gain or command the capacity to dismiss fancies at will, then his or her knowledge is steady because there is nothing for the person to regret. A sthita prajna goes only by what he or she wants, meaning what is considered to be right, and is not dictated by fancies. To go by what you want means that you decide. The decision itself may be right or wrong, but you go by it and not by your fancies. The one who does not go by fancies, who is able to at will to withdraw one's sense organs, is not in the hands of the senses. Sense pursuits do not happen for such a person without his or her signature and sanction. This person will then be able to gain jnana nishtha, steadiness in the knowledge of the self. Let this sink in. So our senses are only reporters. They only report. So when they report, there are problems because there are fancies, and the mind is carried away by these fancies. Whereas a person who is a jnana nishta, who's in, there is steadiness of the knowledge. For him, he does not go by the fancies. Anyone can withdraw the senses. We must remember here that the person under discussion is the sthita prajna, one whose knowledge is firm and remains. Otherwise, anyone who is together could be taken as jnani, which is not true. The person we are discussing is either a sthita prajna or one who is committed to sthita prajnatva, one who wants to be a sthita prajna. For both, the capacity to withdraw one's senses from anything at will is important. This capacity has already been accomplished by a sthita prajna, whereas for the one who wants to be a sthita prajna, it is yet to be gained. So this train of thought will continue throughout Gita. That is the lakshanas of a jnani and the characteristics, what the mumukshu needs to follow. Why is it said here that anyone who is together could be taken as jnani, which is not true? So, just by withdrawing your senses from the sense objects does not make you a jnani. It's an important point because the qualification to be called a jnani is self knowledge. So, just by withdrawing yourself from senses, one doesn't become a jnani. Krishna used the example of a turtle, kurma, with reference to withdrawing the sense organs. A turtle is able to withdraw its limbs at will and then send them out again. Because the turtle cannot move quickly, it is given a certain protection. It has the extraordinary capacity to withdraw its neck, legs, and tail in under its thick shell whenever it apprehends danger. The thickness of the shell prevents the detection of any scent of a living being underneath. This is Bhagavan's gift to the turtle and is also an indication of Bhagavan's sense of humor and justice. If he had given every living being 4 good legs, it would have meant that he had run out of imagination. Instead, Bhagavan is showing you that there is yet another way. Without big legs or fast movements, the turtle too can also survive by withdrawing its limbs into itself and into its shell. Similar to the turtle, a human being is not helpless in the hands of the senses because the person also has a thick shell into which he or she can withdraw. In fact, for some people, their shell is so thick that nothing enters. If the mind is taken away by fancies, what can the senses do? But you can see 100 different things without wanting any of them. You simply see them in the same way as you see nature's autumn colors. What do you want out of them? Nothing. You just enjoy them from a distance, appreciating them as they are. In the same way, the senses need not create a problem. If there is fancy, it comes as a fancy and goes as a fancy. It is only when you want something that problems arise. By means of the turtle example, Krishna is describing the capacity to withdraw the senses at will from their objects and into oneself. And for the one who has knowledge, this capacity will enable that knowledge to become steady, to gain nishtha. For the person who has prepared himself or herself for the knowledge by developing the capacity to make the mind and senses behave in this way, the knowledge is not going to be far away. And if the person is not so prepared, let him or her try to make the mind and senses behave by the practice of withdrawing them from the sense objects. It is as simple as that. So, practice of Dhamma. The information in this verse is not provided in order to judge anyone, but so that you may understand how the mind and senses are meant to function. So, further, Krishna said, विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. So the meaning is, for one who does not feed the senses come back to oneself, leaving the longing behind. Having seen Brahman, when the self is known, even the longing goes away. I'll just read a little bit over here. We'll come back. We'll read the previous verse one more time. So there is this possibility of a doubt here. Does this capacity to withdraw one's senses from the sense objects at will give the person jnana nishta? No. Even a complete fool can practice this technique. A yogi also actively engages in this discipline of withdrawing the senses. The sense organs can be withdrawn as a turtle withdraws its limbs. Therefore, you cannot say a person is a jnana nishta merely because he or she can withdraw the senses and sit with himself or herself. Shankara presents this doubt here in order to deal with it. Even though people may not go along with their fancies, the taste for them will still be there. Therefore, is this not the practice of suppression rather than withdrawal? We have seen how people blow up. The senses definitely get them sooner or later. If not today, then tomorrow. Why? Because everything is suppressed inside. When the value for something is inside a man, he will definitely deliver himself into the hands of his senses eventually. Because he is not their master, the senses will get him. If he thinks he has enslaved them, he need only wait for certain situations to present themselves. He will find himself enslaved by his senses in no time. They will take him for a ride. In the wink of an eye, he will be gone totally. The taste lingers on. Thus, even an ordinary person can withdraw the senses, but the taste, rasa, and value for the fancies will still be there. Such a person feels that certain sense enjoyments are important, and without them, he or she cannot be happy. Suppose because this person is told that sense enjoyments are all very painful, he or she decides not to go after them. Then he or she might begin practicing withdrawal of the senses, but find that the rasa does not go away. Even those who already have a value for meditation and learn to withdraw the senses in order to discover ananda in themselves or gain inner contentment may continue to have a value for the enjoyments of the senses. The question is, when would the taste, the subjective value for sense enjoyments go? The subjective value is an emotional value. Suppose a person is not a fool and has viveka. He is intellectually convinced that sense enjoyments are of no use because they do not provide any real security or lasting pleasure. Even if this person has no intellectual value for sense enjoyments, he or she may still have an emotional value. Therefore, when and how will this emotional value go? The emotional value is very important and must be recognized as such. Emotion is a part of your life, a part of your expression. Therefore, you cannot dismiss it, nor is it necessary to do so. And emotion does need to be respected because it has a power that can be overpowering. We can be completely overwhelmed by emotion, and therefore, we need to know how to tackle it. So, there is an emotional value, which is a subjective value, is different from an intellectual value, which is objective. Intellectually, your analysis can be clean. These are all sense objects. They do not contain any joy or security. I am insecure and remain so, whether I have sense objects or not, whether I have money or not. Therefore, I need to discover security within myself. All of this you may know. All this is intellectual. But although you may know that money does not make you secure, you still have an emotional value for it. And even if you do not have an emotional value for money, an intellectual value will definitely be there because do need to buy a few things. Therefore, to say that money has no value is not correct. The value of money. That money does not give you security is a fact. But money does give you a house, health, haircuts, and a variety of other necessities and comforts. Money is not something that has no value whatsoever. Because it has an objective value, it cannot be dismissed totally. With reference to its emotional value, money is used to measure success. If someone comes to see you in a new car and your car is battered, you find yourself wanting to have a new car. When money is used to measure your success, there is always a feeling that you have not made it. I did not do this and I did not do that is one of the many inner tapes indicative of a subjective emotional value that cannot be dismissed. How can you withdraw from that rasa, that taste that is always there? To suppress the value is not the answer because suppression is nothing but a volcano that blows its top one day. Whenever there is suppression, this problem arises. Here, Krishna told Arjuna how the subjective value is dealt with. The word Vishayas usually means sense objects, but in the present context, it stands for the senses, the topic discussed in the previous and following verses. Based on similar expressions found in the Shastra, Shankara in his commentary on this verse converts sense objects into sense organs. Here, the sense organs belong to a person who does not take to any sense objects, who denies himself or herself sense objects, who does not have any sense pursuits. Nirahara. Ahara means sense objects and refers to that which is taken by you. Food is called ahara. Ahara, the actual meaning is ahriyate iti aharaha. Ahara is that which is taken in. Therefore, it can mean food or any sense object in general. Food is called ahara because it is eaten, taken by you. The one who does not feed the sense organs is therefore called a nirahara. Krishna also referred to this person as a dehi, meaning one who is alive in a physical body. Shankara makes the point here that the person who engages in a rigorous discipline of sense withdrawal can be either a viveki or an aviveki. He or she can even be deluded, a fool, murkaha api. In all cases, the sense organs that are withdrawn from the sense objects come back to oneself. Vishayaha vinivartante. But even though the sense organs come back and sense objects are no longer with the person, the taste for the sense objects remains. Rasavarjam vinivartante. In other words, the subjective emotional value for them is still there. If the person is deluded, an intellectual value will also be there, impelling the person to perform rigorous disciplines, tapas, merely because someone said that they should be done. The difference between a viveki and an aviveki then is that the viveki will only have the subjective value, not the intellectual value, whereas the aviveki will have both the subjective value and the intellectual value. Knowledge alone removes rasa. In general terms, rasa is a sense and is commonly used to mean raga or liking. Shankara describes it in the same way. Anything that is pleasing to you may be referred to as raga or rasa. This is the value that remains inside a person's heart and mind, even after having withdrawn the sense organs from it. This rasa too goes away, Krishna said, when the self is known. Rasopi param drishtva nivartate. This means that when a viveki who pursues self-knowledge and is judicious about his or her present pursuits withdraws the senses, there is no suppression. The viveki is only living a life of meaningful discipline. Whereas for a person who practices sense withdrawal without pursuing this knowledge, the withdrawal does amount to suppression. The literal meaning of the word drishtva is having seen, but here it is used purely in the sense of knowing. What is to be known is I am that. Tat param brahma aham eva. It is not any other jnana. That Brahman is myself. There is no difference between the two. Knowing that I am Brahman does not imply a knower known difference. And in the wake of this knowledge, the rasa goes away, nivartate, meaning that it does not take the person for a ride. How the emotional value for sense objects can capture one's mind is explained by Krishna in the next verse. Once you can no longer be taken for a ride by the rasa, the knowledge of sense objects does not create any kind of craving or longing in you. It is seedless, nirbija, and therefore does not sprout, meaning that it does not set you up so that you are carried away by your fancies. However, when the clarity of vision is not there, meaning when knowledge is not there, elimination of the rasa is not possible. Therefore, knowledge in the form of clear vision, samyak darshana, has to be well established, steady, and firm. May you work on gaining this vision again and again, is what is meant here, because if you give up working for this vision, the erroneous vision you have will not go away. And what is that erroneous vision? Is that the world gives me happiness. Pursuing sense objects gives me happiness. People generally plan to work for clear vision only after they have fixed up everything in their lives. But it does not work that way. There is no fixing up of everything without the vision. So, the pursuit is twofold: yoga, self mastery, and jnana, self knowledge. Removing the sense objects also does not work. I think we'll take this up tomorrow. In fact, we'll go back to verse 58 and come back here. This will take at least a good 10 minutes to read, 5 to 10 minutes. So let's just spend 1 or 2 minutes reflecting on this and sharing what we've understood. I know it was a continuous read, but so you cannot have jnana nishta without having dhamma. And just having dhamma does not mean you have jnana, because that emotional value, that rasa can still be there. And that rasa can take you off balance anytime. It's not just having viveka, but even that rasa needs to go, and that can come only in the wake of self knowledge. Param drishtva nivartate. So even a fool can withdraw his senses from sense objects, but that does not make him a jnani. We should not be misled by that kind of concept, right? So, because the taste lingers on. So, we'll come back to verse 58 tomorrow. We'll read again 58, 59. The senses are just like reporters. We cannot blame the senses. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani vasarvashah indriyani indriyani indriyanindriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. We'll stop here today. Om loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om shanti shanti shanti. Om tat sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu.
Meditation is accepting this moment, living every moment totally with depth. Let us keep our spine erect and body relaxed and eyes closed. Relax your shoulders. Keep a big smile on your face. You're sitting like the statue of Buddha, very serene and with a serene smile on your face. Relax your body. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of your chest region, throat and chest region. If you notice some tension in the body, just let it be. Except those parts of the body where you feel a tension, the other parts are in comfort. Other parts are at peace. Become aware of that also. There are many good things about you and inside of you. Acknowledge them. They will never leave you. And the negative aspect you may see in you is never going to stay with you forever. They are all guests for some time. Let them be. Sit with the total acceptance of yourself the way you are at this very moment. Total acceptance of what is now here will lead us to deeper meditation. Let go of all the effort. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let go of all your effort and be in this emptiness. And slowly and gradually become aware of body and surroundings. And you may gently open your eyes.